I'm Father Michael O'Connor, 63 years old, a Catholic priest living in Pembroke, a small town nestled along the Ottawa River in Ontario, Canada. Pembroke isn't a place that draws attention, just a quiet community of about 14,000 souls. A weathered paper mill that barely runs anymore, a few cobblestone streets slick with moss, and rows of white painted wooden houses standing silent against the river's chill winds. My parish, St. Columcille, sits at the corner of Murray Street, a modest gray stone church with a bell tower darkened by time, where I've served for 35 years. I live in a humble house next door, its exterior cloaked in green moss, its creaky windows rattling in storms, and its backyard graced by an old maple tree where I sit on autumn afternoons. Reading or watching red leaves drift slowly to the ground, I'm not an impressive figure. My hair's gone mostly gray, thinning to a few stubborn strands on top. My nearsighted eyes rely on thick glasses, and my voice is hoarse from decades of sermons and hymns. I find comfort in simple routines, brewing a pot of Earl Grey tea each morning, sitting at my tiny kitchen table with the radio playing Mozart or Bach, and kneeling for evening prayers in the parish chapel, even when only a handful of parishioners show up. I'm not tall or commanding like the priests in old paintings, just a weary man, shoulders slightly stooped with age, often clad in a threadbare wool coat and black leather shoes worn thin at the heels. I was born in Pembroke in 1962, raised in an Irish Catholic family that crossed the Atlantic generations ago. My father, Sean O'Connor, was a lumberjack, a broad-shouldered man with rough hands and a rare, warm smile. My mother, Mary, was a seamstress, petite and gentle, humming Irish hymns as she worked her pedal sewing machine in the kitchen corner. They were poor but devout, their faith a bedrock. Every night, they'd call me and my sister, Kathleen, to the scratched wooden dining table, open their black leather-bound Bible, its edges frayed from use, and read Psalm 23. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Mom would rest her hand on my head, saying, Michael, trust that God's always there, even in the darkest times. Those words sank deep, guiding me through seminary in Ottawa, my early priesthood in remote northern Ontario villages, and now here in Pembroke, where I try to keep faith alive in a community dimming under economic strain and unseen fractures. Pembroke used to feel peaceful, but in recent years, I've sensed a shift, not just from the mill's decline or young folks leaving for Ottawa jobs, but something deeper, darker. My parishioners aren't the same. Bill Hennessy, a kind plumber I've known since he was a young man, has turned irritable, feuding with his neighbor over a worthless patch of land. Margaret Dubois, who once rallied donations for parish charities, is now lost in an online shopping spiral, drowning in debt, yet unable to stop, as if driven by some unseen force. In the confessional, I hear strange admissions, hatred for coworkers over petty slights, envy of relatives for a new car, dark thoughts they tremble to confess, saying they just came out of nowhere, Father. I've prayed harder, read Psalm 23 each night by the dim glow of my bedside lamp, but an unease grows inside me, a shadow I can't name creeping through the people I've vowed to shepherd. Monday, March 3rd, 2025. Broke cold in Pembroke. The temperature dipping below -5°C, wind gusting off the Ottawa River, carrying icy mist that frosted my windows. I woke at 5:30 a.m. as usual, peeling back my thick wool blanket, shuffling stiff legs onto the chilly hardwood floor. I dressed in a gray sweater, flannel pants, and the thick wool socks Mom knitted before she passed from lung cancer when I was 40. In the kitchen, I boiled water, brewed a pot of Earl Grey, the bergamot scent waking me as I sipped it slowly at the table, the radio humming Mozart's Symphony No. 40 through morning static. Dawn light filtered weakly through fogged windows, painting the room in grays. After, I crossed to the parish chapel, knelt before the old oak altar, and prayed, "Lord, guide me today. Help me lead your flock." I had 2 meetings scheduled. First, Bill Hennessy at a.m. at his home on Pembroke Street West, a squat wooden house with a gray shingle roof and a rotting picket fence. Second, Margaret Dubois at 11:30 a.m. at Corner Brew, the downtown cafe where the air smells of baked scones and roasted coffee. I pulled on my long brown wool coat, its sleeves frayed, tugged a knit cap over my head against the wind, and grabbed my battered black leather Bible, a gift from my parents when I was ordained at 27, then stepped outside. The wind slapped my face, stinging my skin, but I was used to it after over 6 decades here. At Bill's, I knocked, and he opened the door, a stocky man in faded blue work coveralls, the faint smell of motor oil clinging to his hands. He waved me in, pointing to a worn plaid sofa in his cramped living room, an electric heater buzzing faintly in the corner. I sat, asked, "Bill, what's going on with that land?" He sighed, voice thick with frustration. "Jack next door keeps saying it's his father. I've worked my whole life, I'm not letting him take it." His eyes were bloodshot, his knuckles white around the sofa's edge, anger simmering like it could erupt any second. I rested a hand on his shoulder softly. "Bill, forgive him. Psalm 23:2-4 says, 'Thou art with me, even in anger. Don't let it consume you.'" He shook his head, growling. "He thinks he's better than me, Father. I'll show him." I left after half an hour, my heart heavy, my words falling like stones into a void. Midday, I walked to Corner Brew, a cozy spot with red brick walls and scratched wooden tables. Margaret was already there, blonde hair tied high, pale blue eyes, red-rimmed from crying, hands wrapped around a cold coffee mug. She looked at me, voice shaking. "Father, I can't stop. I keep buying stuff online, clothes, decorations, knowing I can't afford it. Paul found the bills. We fought bad." I sat across from her, took her hand over the table, said, "Margaret, God will help you through this. Pray with me." I recited Psalm 23, but as she bowed her head, a coldness radiated from her, like an invisible wall blocking my prayer. I left at 12:45, head spinning, unable to grasp why both Bill and Margaret felt so distant, so controlled by something beyond me. Back home by p.m., I was exhausted. My heart raced unnaturally, my chest tight, as if squeezed by an unseen hand. I'd had high blood pressure since 55, after fainting in church from overwork, but this was worse, sharper, more insistent. I sank into my green upholstered armchair in the living room, beside the rarely used electric fireplace, closed my eyes, and whispered, "Lord, show me what's happening." Then it struck, a searing pain sliced through my chest like a blade, twisting in my heart, radiating down my left arm, burning and numbing. I clutched my shirt, gasping, sweat beading on my forehead, reached for the phone on the side table, but my trembling hands knocked it off, sending it skittering under the table. "Jesus, save me," I rasped, voice failing. My head reeled, vision blurred, and I toppled from the chair, hitting the cold hardwood floor with a thud. Darkness engulfed me, no wind howling through the door cracks, no radio hum, just absolute silence. I came to, but not on my floor. I stood in a vast forest, towering maples aflame with red leaves, drifting lazily to a carpet of green moss and soft grass. Golden light streamed through the branches, warming my face, banishing Pembroke's bitter cold. I felt no pain, no fatigue, just a lightness as if I'd shed a heavy armor I'd worn for decades. I looked down, no frayed coat, no glasses fogging my sight, just my white vestments from Easter or Christmas masses, crisp and radiant, my Bible still clasped in my hands, as if it had never left me. A voice rang out deep and resonant, like wind rushing through the trees, yet tender as my father's lullabies from childhood. "Michael," it called, "you've seen the darkness among my people." I turned, heart pounding, and there he was, not a bearded man or haloed figure from paintings, but a shimmering silver-white light, brilliant yet gentle, like sunlight glinting off fresh snow, both powerful and soothing. I knew it was God, no doubt in my soul, and I fell to my knees on the soft earth, tears spilling down my cheeks, soaking into the grass. "Lord," I choked, "I see them changing hatred, greed, like something's taken hold of them. I've tried, but I don't know how to help," he answered, his voice warm as a spring breeze. "It's the devil, Michael. It creeps into human minds, amplifying greed and hatred, sowing division to pull them from me. It takes their small flaws and inflames them into fires that consume. But you're chosen to stand against it." I looked up, trembling, tears still. "Following me, Lord? I'm old, weak, just a plain priest in a small town. How can I?" He said, firm and sure, "No, Michael. You're stronger than you know, because I'm in you. I'll give you a holy sign, a simple gesture, but mighty too. Cast out the devil, cleanse their minds, and bring them back to my light." The forest blurred, and visions unfolded before me, vivid as if I stood within them. I saw Bill Hennessy in his yard, eyes bloodshot, gripping a shovel like he'd strike someone, his face twisted with rage. Around him, a formless black shadow, coiled, radiating malice, whispering in his ear, "He's stealing from you. Hit him. You deserve more." I saw Margaret Du Bois in her living room, surrounded by shopping bags, clothes, trinkets, electronics, her eyes wet with tears, hands shaking as she clutched a credit card, while that shadow loomed behind, mocking, "You need more. It's never enough." I saw others from my parish, Tom, the church caretaker, snarling at his wife over a trivial slight. Helen, the catechism teacher, muttering envy when someone else was praised. "The devil magnifies their darkness," he said, turning tiny. "Seeds of sin into blazing fires, but your sign will sever its grip," that he taught me. I felt my hand guided by an unseen force, warm and certain. My index and middle fingers traced a small cross down from forehead to chest, a cross from left shoulder to right. Then I pressed my right hand to my heart, whispering, "In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, I cast you out, devil." A faint white light flared from my fingers, small but potent, like a holy flame spreading through me. He said, "Use this sign with faith, Michael. It will break the devil's chains, restore peace to their souls. Teach them Psalm 23. My word will shield them from its whispers." I repeated it on my own, feeling power surge through my hand, radiating through my body, a river of light washing away every doubt. I looked up, asked, "Lord, why is the devil so strong? How does it reach them?" He replied, "It preys on human weakness, greed from want, hatred from hurt. In your Pembroke, it finds fertile ground and lost hearts, but I am greater. This sign is my power through you." More visions came beyond my town. A man in Ottawa shouting at a coworker over a minor mistake, a mother in Toronto smashing dishes in a rage at her children, a boy in Vancouver stealing cash for a new phone. "It's everywhere," he said. "But you start where I've placed you, Pembroke. What more must I do, Lord?" I asked, voice hoarse but resolute. "Return," he answered. "Use this sign in your parish. Teach them to pray, to recognize the devil in those amplified emotions. Tell them I'm near, that every temptation can be overcome with faith. Keep Psalm 23 in your heart. I'm your shepherd, and you're theirs. The forest began to dissolve, red leaves blurring into streaks, the silver light dimming. And I was pulled back, gently but unstoppably, like a leaf falling back to earth. I jolted awake, sprawled on my living room floor, chest throbbing as if crushed, breath short and ragged, sweat soaking my white shirt beneath the sweater. My head ached where it had hit the floor, my left arm still numb, but I was alive. My heart beat, faint but steady. The wall clock showed 2:45 p.m., less than 30 minutes unconscious, yet it felt like a lifetime. The phone buzzed under the table. Relentless, someone from the parish, likely worried I hadn't been at the church. I dragged myself over, grabbed. It croaked. I've had chest pain. Call help. It was Tom, the caretaker, shouting, "Father, hold on. I'm calling now." Paramedics arrived in 10 minutes to men. Pierre, a French Canadian with a deep voice, and Amit, a young Asian man with anxious eyes. They knelt beside me, hooked up a heart monitor, checked my blood pressure, voices urgent, pulse weak. BP's crashed, get him out now. Pierre looked at me softer. Hang in there, father. You'll be fine. They lifted me onto a stretcher, carried me to the ambulance, red lights flashing through fogged windows. On the way to Pembroke Hospital, I heard the beep of machines, felt a needle prick as they started in 4, but my mind echoed his words. This sign is my power. At the hospital, they rushed me to the ear, ran an EKG, took chest X-rays. Dr. Patel, a short Indian man with round glasses, came in after 2 hours, holding results. Father O'Connor, you had a mild heart attack. An artery's 60% blocked. Your heart's been weak for years. You're lucky to be alive. Most don't wake up alone like that. I nodded, whispered, not luck, but God. He gave a faint smile, skeptical, said nothing, just prescribed blood thinners, beta blockers, and rest for weeks. I returned home the next day, leaning on a wooden cane Tom brought, climbing my porch steps as Pembroke's sunset burned red. I opened the living room window, looked out at the old maple. A white owl, rare here, glided past, wings silent, eyes glinting at me before vanishing into the branches. I sat, opened my Bible to Psalm 23. For thou art with me, and knew. It was his sign, confirming I'd been sent back with a purpose. I didn't rest as the doctor ordered. I began immediately. The next week, I visited Bill Hennessy again. He sat on his sofa, still fuming, clutching a cold coffee mug. I stood before him, slowly traced the holy sign down from forehead to chest, across my shoulders, pressed my hand to my heart, praying, in God's name, I cast you out. I read Psalm 23, voice raspy but firm. Yea, though I walk through the valley. Bill shuddered, tears welling, voice breaking. Father, I feel lighter, like waking from a nightmare. The next day he called, said he'd made peace with Jack, invited him for dinner to apologize. On Wednesday, I went to Margaret Dubois's house. She sat amid shopping bags, eyes shadowed, head in hands. I made the sign before her, prayed Psalm 23, and she sobbed, Father, I don't need this stuff. I want to live again. I helped her clear it out, donated it, taught her to read Psalm 23 nightly. Her husband, Paul, thanked me later. She's a new person, Father. The parish shifted. That Sunday, the church was fuller, not just Bill and Margaret, but Tom, Helen, faces I'd rarely seen before. They sang louder, Amazing Grace, echoing off the stone arches, and I saw light in their eyes, no more gloom. no more distance. I shared my story at a parish meeting, voice trembling as I recalled the forest and silver light. Tom, tall with salt and pepper hair, nodded. "Father, I felt off too angry for no reason." "Now I get it." Helen, with her small round glasses, gripped my hand. "Tell more people, Father. The world needs this. If you're hearing this, know the devil's real, not a horned beast, but a whisper in our minds, amplifying greed, hatred, turning small feelings into consuming fires. I saw it in Pembroke, in Bill, in Margaret, even in my own doubts. But God's greater. He gave me this sign, a simple act with power to break darkness, and I live to wield it. Each night, I sit under the maple, open my Bible to Psalm 23, by flashlight as dark falls, feel him close as breath. My mission's not done, not just in Pembroke, but beyond, where shadows still spread.